Hello again, and thank you for joining me on this quest to make marketing human again. Today is a podcasting episode where I'll be sharing tips and ideas that we've learnt in our 6+ years of running our own podcasts, working with clients on launching their podcasts, and editing and producing podcasts for both ourselves and our clients. I realized after recording my last tools episode, which happened to be the first one that I did video for Tales of Marketing Transformation, that I spent long times speaking only to video viewers. That's a trap I really fell into. And in future, I need to be more descriptive in my language so that the experience for my listeners will be as valuable. So thank you for your patience as I learn these new skills. And of course, please give me feedback as we go forward. As a podcast host, I get so many pitches on a daily basis. I'd love to say yes to them all. And of course, that's not possible. So we have to set some ground rules. And some of those ground rules are the basis for today's episode around tips to land guest appearances on any podcast. I'm also a guest on many podcasts, and I know how challenging it can be to get your foot in the door of podcast hosts. We are a busy lot. On this episode, as I said, I'll be sharing my 3 tips that will capture the attention of those podcast hosts, and if it's a good match, will almost guarantee that they'll have you on their show. Now head on over to talesofmarketingtransformation.com where you'll find the show notes for this episode, indeed all the episodes and all the resources that we speak about in each episode. Now let's go to the 3 tips in summary. First, make sure that you're pitching information and content that's going to add value to the podcast guest and their audience. It's not just enough to pitch yourself. You really have to show them why they should have you on the show, what value you're going to add. Now, if possible, find out what kind of guests they enjoy interviewing. This can help tremendously when making your pitch. Second, connect with the host. You want them to feel like they already know you before agreeing or even disagreeing with your request to be on the show. And third, make it easy for the podcast host to make a yes/no decision by providing them all the information up front. Providing value. Begin by learning about the podcast you're planning to be on. Here are some questions I recommend asking about any podcast before you even pitch. What type of guests does this show attract? Is it a guest-centered show like my InnovaBuzz podcast? Or is it a guest-driven show like Adam Ruins Everything? What kind of guests have been on the show recently? Listen to several episodes of the podcast in advance and learn what those shows are like, who those guests are, and how this all fits in to the show's theme and format. What kind of topics do they cover? What is their primary focus? And who listens to their podcast? Are they very specific about who they want on the show? Find out what others think about the show as well. Check their reviews. All of this information will help you with your pitch and also get you ready for when you're on the show. Connecting with the host. I love this quote. You can't just sit down and say to yourself, I want to be on a podcast. You have to build the relationship. That's Ryan Mishler, founder and host of The Order of Man. Now, the easiest way to connect is to start a conversation around one of their podcast episodes. Talking about an episode you liked is a casual way of connecting with the host, which helps build the foundation for deeper, transformational conversations in the future. So what should you say? Be authentic. No need to be weird. For example, share what actions you took after listening to an episode. If they've recommended a book and you like it, mention that you have added that book to your reading list. Or if they gave an example from their own life and how they applied something discussed in the episode, share your related experience. This is already an opportunity to give value. Secret tip, be truthful. I've had lots of pitches where people have said to me, I listened to your podcast conversation with ABC. And then later on in the conversation, it turns out that they didn't listen to it because there are things that they don't know. That really is poor form. So if you like a book that they recommend and you are going to add it to your reading list, then you can say that in a conversation. If you have no intention of adding it to the reading list, don't tell them that you will. Once you've connected with the host and engaged in meaningful conversations that have added value to them already, the chances that they'll respond in positive ways to your request to be their guest on a podcast episode increase exponentially. And thirdly, we want to make it easy for the podcast host. When pitching ourselves as a podcast guest, we want the podcast host to afford us the privilege of giving us the stage with their audience. That's a privilege. We shouldn't abuse that privilege, but I'll talk separately about that in a future episode. Here, the important thing is that we should make it as easy as possible for the host to make a yes-no decision on whether they think we will add value to their audience or not. I suggest to provide all relevant information up front: email, phone, contact, other contact details, a short form and long form bio, outline of relevant experience, a list of possible topics, and here it's best to give multiple choices to provide the host with options. Also include previous guest appearances, ideally with links to the episodes that they can play directly from those links. Make it easy. Also, it will help the hosts if we provide an assets folder, which includes our headshot and other photos, logos, and any downloadable files that we may offer on the show. These will be needed when the host publishes our episode. We don't want to require the host to do extra work to find any information. Our pitch should make it clear what's in our guest appearance for the host and their listeners. So, making it really easy, and if you can send them a note that says, I'm a perfect guest for your show because, and you've done all the things that I outlined here, they'll be much more inclined to agree. So there are my 3 tips for landing guest spots on any podcast. Make sure that you're pitching information and content that will be valuable to both the host and their audience. Connect with the host before you ask to be on their show, and make it easy for the podcast host to make a yes-no decision. Thanks for listening to this episode. Follow the show to be reminded of new episodes, and leave a review because it helps other people find this show. Also, I invite you to share this with everyone who this information can help. Sharing is caring after all. Go to talesofmarketingtransformation.com to join our marketing transformation community and access a free gift that my team and I produced for you. It's the Marketing Master Mini Class. The objective is that we want to give you everything you need to transform your marketing into a human-centered, relationship-focused growth engine. Also, if you have a podcast or you're thinking about starting a podcast, reach out to me to discuss how I can help you with editing, with production, with music, with whatever might be standing in your way of getting your voice heard and building your visibility, credibility, and that deep connection with your dream clients. And of course, I'd always love your feedback and questions. Send them to feedback@talesofmarketingtransformation.com. I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBiz. Tune in again to the next episode of Tales of Marketing Transformation. Until then, stay awesome and let's make marketing human again. Bye.